everyone. Welcome to the 2020 Make It Big conference. I'm your host, Beatrice Este with BigCommerce, and today I'm here with Josh Garellek, CEO of Arctic Leaf. Josh, thank you so much for joining us. I would love to have you kick things off and let us know how you got started in e-commerce and CBD.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit of my experience in the CBD market. Again, my name is Josh Garellek. I'm the CEO of Arctic Leaf. We are a UX design and implementation agency with two offices one in Irvine, California, and one in Ottawa, Canada. It's a funny story. Arctic Leaf's actually a byproduct of a merger back in 2017 with a company called New Leaf Interactive. At the time, I was heavily focused on mobile application development, enterprise software, and my business partner, Jonathan Coy, had been doing quite a bit of work on the front end side, UX design and e-commerce space. And after working together for a number of years, we decided, hey, it's about time we hop in and create a joint entity. And, so back in 2017, we merged, and lo and behold, Arctic Leaf Inc. was created. I have some prior experience in the e-commerce sector. Before that, I ran a network marketing company, doing online sales, things like that. So that's, long story short, that's how we got into the e-commerce space.
So let's go ahead and dive right in. What is the state of the CBD industry today?
Well, first of all, the CBD market is definitely hopping. We're sitting at about $9.3 billion as the industry today in the USD. With the expectations that the market's going to grow to about 23 billion by 2025. And if that's not big enough, then there's actually some that are saying that the CBD market will grow to about 80 billion by 2030. So that's not too far away, for that much of a growth. So definitely it's a very exciting, very lucrative industry right now with lots of different ideas and products coming out.
So I know you mentioned growth there, which is a common theme just in e-commerce for the past few years. But I want our viewers watching to really understand what we mean when we're talking about CBD growth. Can you help us kind of understand what the true market opportunity is when it comes to CBD?
Well, so I think you got to put them into two categories. So one is if you have an existing line with a brand that your customers trust. And you're already working with existing contract manufacturers. So, that's a kind of an easy plug where you're talking to your already existing suppliers saying, hey, I'd like to add CBD to an existing product line. But take, for example, if you are new to e-commerce, but you're excited about CBD or the cannabis market or whatever it is, and you have this idea, and he's like, I want to, bring a product to market, but I have no idea what I'm going to do, and I have no idea anything to do with like product development because that's a very lengthy and timely and costly process. So you're a brand new brand. There's actually a plugin out there called Rocktomic Labs, which is essentially a contract manufacturer out of Utah that plugs directly as a plugin or a module that plugs directly into your BigCommerce store. And what they do is essentially handle everything on the back of house. So what you as the brand owner would go and do is create a logo, product labels, copy, et cetera, and you would set up a BigCommerce store. You would hire someone like Arctic Leaf to do it for you, or you get a great theme online and you're up and running. And what Rocktomic Labs does is as an order comes in, they will actually just print a label and then ship the product for you on your behalf. So really, what happens is you have no minimums. So usually if you're working existing contract manufacturers, a new one, they're looking for a 5,000 minimum quantity order, which can be quite costly if you're just spinning something up and you're trying to test something. Whereas with these individuals, you can be up and running as long as you have a logo, a brand, a label. You send it all to them, an order comes in, everything, they handle everything, fulfillment, insurance, product liability, everything from behind the scenes. So obviously they're a little more generic products, but what's really great about it is they have a lot of different verticals. So they have everything from animal products to gummy bears to topical creams to lip balms. And all you really have to do is put a logo and a label on it, and they take care of everything behind the scenes from the back of house, which is really, really great because if it's just so fast to market and you can just focus on the front of house and talk about the transparency equals, trust, which equals brand loyalty. right? So focus on those three things and let someone like Roctomic Labs handle everything behind the scenes for you.
And like many things, the pandemic that we've experienced this year has really changed and impacted so many different categories across e-commerce. How has consumer behavior really shifted since the pandemic first came about in March?
Definitely there's been growth due to the pandemic. So, I think this is a 2 or 3 part answer. So I'll try to give you a little more context. But what was really interesting pre-COVID, when everyone was, or people who were interested in buying CBD would actually go into a store, a dispensary. And part of that was a lot about education. This is something new. It's something they've never tried before. So they want to have a little bit more of that in-person, hands-on approach of getting that education. And obviously with COVID, that's significantly changed, and most of the sales have gone online. So what a lot of brands who are selling CBD, what they're doing is actually creating a ton of educational content to educate their customers or educate new buyers on what is CBD, what are the benefits of CBD, how does it interact, is it does it contain THC, how much, what are the types of effects you're going to feel, and then also what are you looking to accomplish with that. So that's kind of a first part. Second part is, COVID-19 or COVID, whatever you want to call it, coronavirus, has caused a disruption in most people's everyday life. And when you have that large of a drastic change, there generally comes with some form of a mental health challenge or, just overall challenges. COVID-19 has created a lot of challenges in, what's happening with, if you have kids, how does it go? Like, are the kids going back to school in September? How do I operate and run my job successfully with my kids at home? I don't know if, all of a sudden every plan that we had as far as travel that's out of the question. You look at the example of people stockpiling toilet paper because everyone thought, toilet paper was going to be out of supply. And so people are looking for something to kind of take off that edge, right? And unfortunately, we've seen a very large influx in consumption of alcohol products and drug consumption and domestic, all of that kind of stuff. So CBD is offering those individuals something a little bit different. It helps with anxiety. It helps with mental health challenges. They're anti-inflammatory, so if you're dealing with pain or certain things like that. So it's really an interesting direction of where people are going, and a lot of people are buying it for that mental health, for that pain, and just trying to find something to give that even that 2 or 3% of a difference in that anxiety or that uncertainty is just massive, and you're seeing that very, very significantly in the CBD market as a whole. I do have some other data on that subject matter that I pulled a friend of mine. I'm not going to say the name of the company because they asked me not to yet, because they're going to create actually a nice little blog post and all of this kind of stuff around the CBD market. But the data comes back that pre-COVID and post-COVID, they're seeing a 20% increase in email marketing revenue coming from the CBD market. And if you ask me, that's a pretty big engagement. And that's part of it is because a lot more people are sitting in front of their computers or at home. Emails become extremely powerful. But to see that kind of an influx from 3 months prior to COVID and 3 months, post-COVID, I guess you would call it, that's a pretty big jump to see that there's a lot of people clearly looking for these CBD products.
And for those watching who may be curious to just start their own CBD brand, or maybe are looking to add a CBD line to their business, what areas within CBD, and I should specify and really say what categories in the CBD market are we really seeing a lot of growth with?
I mean, right now you're seeing it from all aspects. I mean, one of the larger verticals that's actually growing is animals. So if animals feel stress, animals feel as they get older, their joints are wonky and they need some extra support. And so if CBD is working for an individual, a human, then the animal product market will continue to increase. You're seeing a lot in hemp oil. One of the interesting verticals is actually creation of biomass. So you can actually create fuel using CBD. I mean, I think we're a few years away from seeing any kind of real massive developments in that, but that's a vertical you're seeing. So from an industrial standpoint, you got, biomass, paper, bottles, clothing. I mean, there's some clothing companies out there that are using hemp exclusively to make all their products. You're seeing medicinal products and antibacterial agents, and it's, cosmetics is obviously a really, really big one. So we have a couple of, brands like, for example, Lab to Beauty, built on BigCommerce. They have a great cosmetic line, so skin cleansers, things like that. And the reason the benefits is that if you're, washing your face daily, or if you're doing something that you may have a little more sensitive skin, the CBD has anti-inflammatory products, which is what is designed to, reduce that inflammation. So, I mean, you're really seeing it from across the board, from, animal products, cosmetics, wellness products, joint products, and everything from internal and then also from a topical standpoint. So some people don't actually want to ingest CBD. They may want to just, actually use it on a joint area, or something like that, a roll-on or something like that. So it's, you're really seeing it from all verticals, and you're seeing some really interesting type of products that are coming out, in across all verticals for that matter.
That's awesome. And I want to shift gears here for a second and talk about rules and regulations, which isn't always the most exciting topic, but if you're selling CBD, is something that you absolutely must understand. There's a lot of rules and regulations that they vary by state, by country, and they affect everything from your operations to your shipping and even down to your marketing. So walk us through a little bit about what CBD sellers can expect when it comes to rules and regulations.
For sure. So first off, let me explain that I am by no means an expert in legality when it comes to purchasing or selling CBD. So please check with your legal counsel and check with your local regulations on what you can and can't do. It's an interesting market, and COVID's actually accelerated the development of this market very, very quickly. There was a lot of people out there, a lot of governors out there that were on the fence with CBD and even THC or cannabis for that matter. And we've seen a ton of development. So for example, you can buy CBD as long as it has less than 0.3 0.3% THC. Now that's from a federal level, but every province, I'm Canadian, so that's why I think of province, but every state for that matter, has their own regulations. So for example, in Virginia, you can't use CBD unless you have a prescription for it. So there's definitely lots of regulations on what you can and can't do. As far as advertising, it's, PPC is pretty much off the table. Facebook advertising, Instagram advertising, like true like pay-per-click or like cost per 1,000 impressions CPM, things like that. You just can't buy inventory for CBD products. What you can do, and what has really created some very exciting opportunities, is using influencer marketing. And there's a couple of major brands out there that have done a phenomenal job in recruiting celebrities, CrossFit athletes, and that have really promoted their brands, and you've seen a really, really large uptick in that influencer marketing standpoint. So definitely influencer marketing is a really great opportunity, a great way to get your CBD product out there. Something else that I've always really wanted to try, and it comes from the network marketing space or the multi-level marketing space, and MLM definitely gets a bad rep, but there's a couple of things that are very interesting that I think could be used in more traditional business models. And one of them is that actual like 3 for free. So I've always wanted to set up this concept of, if you refer 3 customers, you get free product, or you get a certain amount of free product in product credit. And what's really very powerful, and the statistics are, is that 92% of people will buy from someone who actually refers you a product. So those, your existing customer base is your best seller, and giving them an incentive or an opportunity to earn free product or product credits, or be able to give product to some of their friends and families and things like that, so to help reduce some of that stigma, I think could be a really, really cool concept. And then obviously, the last piece is email marketing. So whether you have no list or you have a list, if you have a list, fantastic. Utilize that, build in segmentation, figure out who are your buyers, start teasing it out, giving, I talked a little bit before about educational content. So, use that as an opportunity to educate your customers and saying, hey, we're thinking about, launching a CBD line. What's your interest in it? Do you have any questions? Can we answer anything? Maybe we host a webinar. So there's a lot of really, really creative ways you can use email to really invoke the launch or really start the launch of your CBD market or your CBD product line. So those are just kind of 3 different approaches that I personally would take if I'm launching a CBD line.
I'd actually love to expand on that because I think education is so important no matter what product you're selling, but it's really essential when it comes to CBD. So what are CBD brands doing today to really help educate their customers? And maybe what are a few examples of brands doing this really well?
For sure. And like I said before, a lot of this education was done in store or at a dispensary or with a doctor or someone who is qualified to discuss it. But as obviously the world has changed, you can use email to educate your customers and explain to them what is CBD, what is CBD, what is CBG, right? So there's a whole different kinds of different products. And then also what's CBD versus THC, right? So a good example, my mom would never use anything like THC. She doesn't want any of the effects that cannabis could have, but she's a big advocate for CBD on something like joints, right? So here's a really interesting example on creating trust and brand loyalty. So one of our merchants at Arctic Leaf, we did a full custom build for them. It's called Lab to Beauty, and they actually got dinged by some news outlet saying, hey, your CBD levels in your products are incorrect, and they're you're essentially lying. And what Catherine did, the CEO over there, was a good friend of mine, and she called me up and said, this is what's going on. How do we do this? And I said, well, what do you have to prove? And they said, well, we have all the lab reports. And I said, well, would you be open to just posting the lab reports on your website and then sending that out in an email? And she's like, absolutely. So here's a really, really good, compelling example of transparency. You mentioned it before, transparency. If you put your lab reports right on your website as part of a PDF download or right as part of the product imagery, and you can see here's exactly how much CBD I have in it, this is the lab, this is the testing, when it was done, you've just taken all of that concern from your consumer or buyer out, because now all of a sudden you've given them that transparency, you've given them that education, that validation piece that, hey, this is a brand that I trust and this is a brand that I want to buy from. And I thought that was a really, really cool example of how to create brand loyalty and show and really share, hey, yeah, what we're telling you is 100% correct. And that's, I think, really, really important, especially in the cosmetics space and anything in the nutritional supplement and wellness space. People want to know what they're ingesting and they want to understand what they're putting on their bodies. And I think what they did was a really, really very, very smart idea.
So there's really 2 ways you can get into the CBD market. One being to launch an entirely new CBD brand, and the other, as I mentioned before, to add a CBD line of product to your existing business. For each of these ways to get into the market, where's a good place to start?
So first of all, I'm a big advocate for a pre-sale. It gives you really a great idea of, what the market is, how many orders you need, you can, especially if you have an existing brand. So I think that to get into, you can even do this as a survey. So using email as a very powerful tool, you can send out an email to your, loyal customers and say, hey, we're looking to add a CBD line. What's of value or what's of interest? Do you want it to be makeup? Do you want it to be cosmetic, lipstick, serums, lip balms, whatever, right? And this way it gives your customer base an opportunity to relay their wants and needs and really have them feel like you're listening to them. So that I always find is a really interesting option. Using surveys or pre-sales are really just a great way to capture data and understanding, do I have something here? Validation. Do I check that first box? Okay, great. If I check that first box, now what do I do? So if you're already in that space, whether it's a cosmetics or wellness or something like that, first thing I would do is reach out to your existing contract manufacturer and say, hey, are you guys dabbling in the CBD space? And if so, what would it look like to create a new product or take one of our existing formulas and add CBD to it? Generally, lower cost. If you're already doing a lot of business with them, probably wouldn't be too much. And then, like I said, there are some options. One of them, me personally, I looked at, it was called Rocktomic Labs. Essentially plugs directly into your BigCommerce store, and it's a print on demand and it's an order on demand. So you have to carry no minimums, no volumes. You pay a small subscription fee to use the software, and then it's, you sell it for X and it costs you Y, and you keep the delta, right? So very, very easy. So if you have an in-house graphic designer, or if you're working, even you go to 99 Designs, or you come to like Arctic Leaf, right? We'll design you a brand, build out a store, and then all you would basically do is hook in this Rocktomic Labs or this plugin, and all of a sudden you're up and running. And then start using, your existing email list, or start building that list, work with influencer marketing, and just start sending out free samples. A lot of people just want free samples, and we'll talk about it, create some hashtags. So there's a lot of strategy that goes involved with it, but to get up and running, as big and lucrative as this vertical is, there's actually ways to do so without breaking the bank and getting to market relatively quickly and at a low cost as well.
And a common question we get here at BigCommerce from brands who are looking to sell CBD is around e-commerce features and functionalities. In your opinion, what are a few e-commerce features and functionalities that CBD business should absolutely integrate with their e-commerce store?
Well, first of all, definitely finding a payment processor that will work with CBD is the first part, because if you can't process funds, then there's kind of no point, right? So that's the first. Obviously, a platform like BigCommerce, and then email marketing. So we're a big advocate for someone like Klaviyo, great ESP. So definitely something like that. Reviews, product reviews in the CBD. We were talking a little bit before about education and transparency. People want to see that you're using this product, that you're having results, that they're, essentially that there's other user generated content out there that people are happy with the product lines, and it's giving them the results that they want. So definitely a reviews platform. Again, I always talk to, I'm a big advocate for that 3-for-3 program. So some kind of an affiliate system, some kind of an affiliate system that allows everyday customers to earn free product credits, and then also just getting the word out. I really think that the first part of it is getting that word out, things like that. What else is there? So I would probably, education. So making sure that you have some really good product education videos and things like that on your store. And then, I think those would be like kind of the three main focal points that I would focus on. Reviews, good word of mouth marketing, and then a good way to market your information to your existing customer base.
So looking to the future, CBD is continuing to evolve as there's more awareness about using the entirety of the marijuana plant. How do you think that this is going to continue to impact the CBD industry moving forward?
Yeah, so right now CBD is kind of that hot topic, right? But what there's actually, what's really interesting around the cannabis plant or the hemp plant is that the entire plant is essentially, you can use it for lots of different things. So there's really no waste. So for example, CBD is very exciting and very, very important, but there's another product that comes from the cannabis plant, and that's called CBG. And what's really interesting about CBG is that it's got even higher medicinal properties than CBD. The problem is, or not really the problem, but the challenge is that CBG actually comes or is developed in earlier stage cannabis plants, and then you have to make a choice on whether or not you want to harvest your plants early to capture the CBG, which by the way only makes up 1% of a cannabis plant. So it's very expensive to produce, but very, very high in antibacterial and even anti-cancer properties, things like that. So I think you're going to see different verticals or different product lines come from the cannabis plant and the hemp plant. So like you said, CBD or CBG. But what you're also going to see is you're going to see juicing. The plants, the leaves, the sugar leaves, the trichomes that are on these plants, they are really, really powerful in healing properties. So you're going to see individuals juicing leaves. There's two different types of leaves. There's the fan leaves. Those are the big leaves of the cannabis plant. And then you have the sugar leaves. The sugar leaves are kind of the ones that grow inside of the actual flower and bud. So they each have different types of properties. The stem is usable. You can juice the stems. You can actually juice the flower, the dried cannabis, which is something that I was kind of curious about, and I'm going to kind of research a little bit more. But you can actually use the roots of the plant to be used as fibers and other things like that to create clothing and string and paper. And so it's a really, really versatile plant that can be used in a lot of different ways. And I think you're just going to see a lot more coming from that wellness, cosmetic, anything that really is tied to dealing with stress, anxiety, pain and anything like that. You're going to just see, I think you're going to see a lot more coming from from the actual plant, because it's just so versatile and can be used in so many ways.
And last but not least, for those tuning into this session, what are a few key takeaways you'd like them to walk away with?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. A couple of key takeaways. So first off, again, I'm not a lawyer. Furthest thing from it, I'm a marketer and big creative ideas. Definitely look into the legislation, and it's changing constantly. From the time we shoot this video, from the time that, the conference is on, it very well could have changed. So again, if you're in different states or provinces, make sure that you're checking with your local regulatory and governments to make sure that you're doing everything by the book. Don't be afraid of it. It's a phenomenal vertical, and the products are great. So definitely use them, try them, research them, get creative, have fun with it. It's a fun industry, and I think that's what everyone kind of forgets about. Is like everyone. I hate to say the word everyone because it's just kind of this absolute value. But there's a lot of individuals that have a negative stigma on CBD or the cannabis space. And that's changing, especially with the legalization up in Canada a couple of years ago. You're starting to see more and more mainstream products or mainstream companies like Constellation Labs invest, billions of dollars into tweed or canopy growth. So it's a fun industry. It's interesting, it's exciting, and it's changing constantly. So have fun with it, and educate yourself. Get excited about it, and don't be afraid of this industry as a whole. So maybe not exactly what you're looking for, but I think just, again, regulatory, and then just, educate yourself on what you can and can't do, and then have fun within this vertical, because it is a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Josh, for joining us and sharing your expertise on e-commerce and CBD and helping us make it big at this year's conference.
Please, by all means, if you guys want, please reach out to me. I'm accessible on LinkedIn. That's really the vertical I use the most. That's how I connect with people. If you have questions, reach out. If you're also, need some additional support or consulting or anything like that, definitely reach out to us over at the agency. We love to connect with, whether it's new brands or established brands, and help everyone grow. So thank you for this opportunity.
That was such a great session with Josh Garellek, CEO of Arctic Leaf. Be sure to engage with us on social media using the hashtag MakeItBigConf and share what you've learned. If you're looking for more insights, be sure to tune in to more Make It Big conference sessions by heading over to www.bigcommerce.com/makeitbig.